All right, appreciate everybody being on Zoom. I thought tonight was a good night for us. We got over 100 plays. I think we're about 110 plays. So really, hit right around where I wanted us to be. Obviously with being the sixth practice, first day in full pads, it was. Very competitive. Unfortunately, we started. We got to start in Doak, but with lightning coming in the area, we had to transition to the indoor. I thought guys handled that well. It was a lot of energy. It was you felt guys playing emotional with energy, excitement. There were some things we absolutely got to get cleaned up. Had some foolish penalties that showed up tonight that extended drives that kind of cost the team in moments, and we got to be more disciplined in some aspects of that. But I thought it was a good first scrimmage. You kind of get a sense of exactly where we are. Here after the first few days in uppers and letting our first day in pads, seeing guys go block, tackle, have some of the excitement and anxiety of what comes into having to go and perform and show exactly where they are. And we wanted to accelerate the process with this early scrimmage, and I think it would be a lot of good film to be able to learn from. I thought there was some really good tape that we're going to be able to show. I thought, offensively started really fast. Had a couple big plays. I thought Tommy played really well tonight. Some things we'll be able to go back and specifics to be clean up. But I thought he did a great job. Had a couple vertical shots that were able to connect on. I know Deuce Robinson had a big play in a conversion. I think Randy Pittman showed up, with another big play. There was some times that Tommy was able to extend plays, and utilizing his legs as well. I thought the running backs ran really hard. Protection, was good for the most part. There were some good opportunities. I thought, James Williams, Jaden Jones showed up. I know a couple guys that showed up with quarterback sacks. That good wins in those situations. You felt some of the disruption show up at times with our defensive front. And guys were flying around. That was something I was pleased with. I thought, defensively, I think Earl Little's continuing to show up in a positive way for us. There was Edwin Joseph had a big break up on a pass that we did have one missed opportunity for sure, and with a chance for an interception that we didn't capitalize on, and actually it ended up being a tip pass. Touchdown. So, there were some things that we gotta clean up and continue to focus on our those details and fundamentals. But all in all, I was pleased with the guys. You got some special teams work. Obviously a little bit of it being limited, just being indoors. But I thought our guys had the right mindset, and you will be able to grow. And as tomorrow we'll watch film in the morning, and we'll head to Jacksonville. And this is a critical week for us ahead. And this team has to come together. I love the competitiveness. I love the way the guys challenge and battled and fought tonight. But this team, it's gonna gel together through the work. And we've got plenty of it in front of us. But I like the mentality of what they bring and the way they've kind of challenge themselves, through the first six practices, and we've got a lot in front of us.
All right, first question will be from Vernon Simone.
Hi, Mike. With Tommy, it sounds like at least a few practices in a row now where you've been pretty pleased with his performance overall. I guess are you starting to get a decent sense of what the offense can be with him operating it, what the strengths are going to this point?
Yeah, I think that each day we get a little bit better sense. Obviously everything has to play through the quarterback, and I think Coach Malzahn's done a great job of that. Throughout his career, is doing a great job. In being able to establish a foundation right now. But we kind of want to see it all. We want to throw it a lot at him, and you'll see things that even at preliminarily might not be great, but as he's able to grow and work through, you see somebody that's really pouring a lot of time in. I think we've got some talented guys around him that that can help, and it's I have been pleased with just his his work ethic, his demeanor, the good plays, the bad plays, when they show up, and how he's how he's owning the his own actions and decisions, and then just working to get better through them. But I think we're getting closer with each day of having a cleaner picture of all the things that we'll be able to do.
All right, next question will be Ira.
Staying with the quarterbacks, did you guys handle the backups the way you guys did in the spring, where you gave them a lot of reps too, and how did they do?
Yeah, Brock was actually, I'll let y'all know, Brock, we held Brock tonight in a very short-term little issue for a couple days, and so it really gave Kevin and Jalen an opportunity to get more reps. I thought we got into the depth of a quarterback position. I've really been pleased with Brock and everything I've seen from him early here in fall camp. And what he did through the summer. But I think it was great tonight for Kevin to get a big chunk of the plays that we needed to see from him. I thought he did some good things. Obviously, some areas to be able to grow through tonight's experience, but also for Jalen King to be able to get out there and to be able to get his first live action here at Florida State, and I thought he was able to flash there early, and obviously we'll continue to grow and build through that. I thought Michael Grant did some nice things when he went in there too, so it was good. It was good for those quarterbacks to get that work, and I'm pleased with where that position is going.
Will be Liam.
Mike, sticking with the offense, particularly the offensive line. I know yesterday we talked to Micah and he said they had a great day, one of their best. Did they kind of carry that over into today, and what was that like for you guys?
I thought there were some good plays. I mean, I'll have to go in and really watch film of seeing it. I mean, there's with that position, it's about the consistency of five guys working together, being tight in our combos, making sure that that we're clean in our pass pro and passing off, whether it's a blitz, whether it's twist, just winning your one-on-ones when you get those opportunities. And there was a few times that we had some pressure, but I thought also there were some times that we were able to create some space and give good run lanes, as well as being able to put together a nice pocket for the quarterback to be able to move and step up into. So I'll get a better sense of that going back and watching, but I felt, just all in all, I thought it was a solid, first scrimmage where those guys are, especially with all of them, just now coming to play together for really the first time.
All right, next will be Tommy Meyer.
Hey, Coach, going through, the first scrimmage, how do you feel the team is, health-wise overall?
I like where we are. We had the majority of the guys, we're in full participation. We've had a couple guys, that we held that probably could have went tonight. Fully. I'm expecting, Jason Jenkins. I mean, he's been getting individual work. A couple of competitive drills. Him and Jacob Rizzi both next week. Or I'm expecting to be back out and in full go. Here, so which will be great for us. We've got a couple guys with bumps and bruises that were unavailable tonight, but not very many. And so I feel good about 6 days being in, and just the work that our guys are able to get. And I think tonight we came out pretty clean. There'll be a couple things that we'll check out, but it's pretty clean from the initial review of it.
All right, we'll go back to Ira.
You mentioned Jaden Jones. I think T-Knight or Tony White, one of them mentioned him the other day also as a guy that's, kind of had a good summer, and he's been through so much. Did you guys think that he'd be a contributor this season? When did that kind of come into focus?
Well, I mean, I thought, in the spring, some of the work he was able to get and just, see his confidence. Obviously, he's had, two pretty severe injuries, that, were a big setback and, just a challenge for him. But, he's never wavered. And, he has just continued to fight, continued to work. He's got an incredible spirit. He's got great length, athletic ability. I mean, he really is. He's flashed, in the spring, and then, just seeing his work ethic in the summer. I think he's carried that over. Like I said, he got a sack tonight, and he was able to make some plays. You felt that times where he was disruptive. I think he brings a maturity, even though he hasn't played just a lot of football. I mean, he brings a maturity, and one of the smartest guys we got on our football team, and just his and the work that he puts in is something I'm really proud of. He's been great for those young guys, and just to be able to tell the story. And I like our young defensive line group is they got a real shot, and I think they're going to be very, very impactful, be able to help. But I like the experience and the leadership that we have in that room, and I think Jaden's definitely a great example for that.
All right, we'll go back to Brendan.
Is there anyone, Mike, distinguishing themselves in the running back room yet, or is it multiple guys?
Yeah, I mean, tonight that was something I was looking forward to seeing, and kind of how guys were going to respond with the opportunities they got, and I was pleased. I mean, it was multiple guys made plays in different things. I thought Gavin Sawchuk had a couple nice runs. I thought Cam Davis, and I'll say, I think he's taken some great strides here, this fall camp, and I thought he had some really good runs, there. You saw, Roy Dell has been very good for us, here in this first week, and excited about what he's going to bring. You were able to get Jalen Lucas, some opportunities, touches, and Usman was. One of his first plays in there was a pass protection, blitz pickup, and I mean, I haven't seen many freshman running backs that will stick his face in it like he did. I mean, it was violent, and it's exciting for he's a superb talent with the ball in his hands and the things that he can do, but you're seeing him without the ball in his hands too is something that gets you excited for what the future can be. But we've got great competition there, and I think that there was not any negative light that I really saw tonight. I was like, oh man, but I thought guys took advantage of their time. We're going to have a lot of competition because it's going to come down to production. And at the end of the day, we're going to have a group of guys that can go, make a big impact for us. And the best guys are going to play, and it's going to be extremely competitive. And but I really like what I'm seeing from that group, and we'll continue to see that develop and emerge.
We'll go to Corey.
Yeah, Mike, on the offensive side of the ball, you said there were some big plays. Deuce made a big play. Randy Pittman made some big plays. I don't know how to phrase this. Were there any special plays? Guys that just made some really special talent plays?
Well, I was going to mention, I mean, it's Mekhi Danzy had one of the, he got the ball in his hand on a short play, and, I don't know how many yards he actually ran across. It was on the play. I mean, but it was it turned into an explosive 20-plus yard run. But I mean, it was impressive. He forced missed tackles. You saw his speed, explosiveness. He was strong with the ball in his hands. He's continuing to grow in it. But I think that that was definitely an encouraging thing to see. And I think we got some guys. That are taking some positive steps. I mean, I talked about the one tip pass, touchdown, and a great focus and concentration from B.J. Gibson that ended up being a touchdown. So I mean, we had some explosive plays that showed up, and guys that are making plays with their opportunities.
We'll go back to Ira.
Now that mostly, I would think the back 7 or 6 or 7, whatever it is, on defense, now that they've had, 8 months now with Coach White, do you get a sense of seeing them in a kind of a game situation? Do you get a sense for the comfort level they have in the changes and schemes and what they're being asked to do now? I do.
I think the guys are building in their confidence of, the different coverages, the different leverages, the things that and how we're going to be able to utilize and move those guys, because I mean versatility is critical in this, and I think that those guys are really, embracing, the challenges that Tony and the defensive staff is putting on them, because, you got to play man, you got to play multiple, zone looks. There are going to be times you're going to be on an island, whether you're outside, inside, and you've got to. You got to rise to the challenge, and I think they have really embraced that. Like I said, saw multiple guys that had positive plays, in the defensive back room. I think Kai Bates showed up with a big physical play, which I was excited to see. I thought Shamar, he had a really good week this week. He had a good learning opportunity tonight where he did a great job in coverage. Just got a little handsy at the end, but put himself in the right position in coverage. So there's guys that have really kind of established themselves. I've been pleased with Jerry. Jabril's had some great plays throughout the week. I think Q was he was a little limited the first week, but he got back out kind of full effect. So we're looking forward to even more out of him this next week. But seeing that next group of guys that's competing at the corner spot, I like what I'm seeing. From our safeties and the versatility that they're showing, and so it's going to be competitive. And but you could definitely see the guys playing a step faster with each day that goes by.
We'll go back to Brendan.
Back in the spring, Mike, there was, I can't remember the exact day in the spring, but there was a time where you weren't thrilled with effort, energy one day, and the response, maybe in a couple of practices, the response afterwards became consistently good. And then when we talked to you, I think it was on Friday, kind of similar, there was a lull in the middle of practice, response good. I guess given what you assembled in the offseason with the mental makeup that you wanted to bring together with this roster, I know only a few data points, but have those been positive, encouraging that there has been that, the word you love, that response?
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that I've been probably most pleased with is, just the way the guys have owned actions. And, if it wasn't good enough, we tell them it's not good enough, and it's their choice to go make it better. We don't get to go step on the field for them. We don't get to, the dreams they have individually, they've got to go make the dreams happen. The dreams we have as a football team, we're all responsible for. So, but we've got to make sure that our habits, the investment we make, what we're willing to give. You get sick of hearing me say, you talk about edge and desperation, but, you get one shot at life. And you get one shot to be able to put this career together, as a football player, and you get one opportunity, one season for a team. And so, if you're not willing to pour into each other, if you're not willing to respond to the good and the bad, then it's all lip service. But I think we've got a impressive group that is hungry to go do something special. They're hungry to go be all that they can, and they're taking advantage of opportunities from good and bad where they get to grow from it. And tonight we had a lot of things that we're going to have to clean up upon. We have to be more disciplined. We've got to make sure that we're continuing to push the pace and playing faster, and just the elements of our communication. That was one of the things that was negative just with with the weather. It was kind of our first opportunity to be in Doak Campbell with coaches and press box and all that, because we didn't have the field for the spring, and we only got, I think, 10 plays in, and so before we had to transition. So that's. We're gonna have to do an extraordinary job here moving forward with the next scrimmage, and opportunities where we can get back into Doak just to work through those game situations, as a staff, because we all have responsibilities and we've got to be able to perform at the best that we can, and everything's built into August 30th, and so it's everything we got.
All right, we'll do two more. Next will be Logan Robinson.
Coach, what were your thoughts on the specialists tonight overall, and Jake Weinberg? What are your thoughts through him in fall camp and tonight specifically?
Yeah, I think Jake's been really good in fall camp. It's hard to for the specialist as a whole. Really with the punters. Being in the IPF is it's tough because you don't get a full look at it. I thought our units, our punt unit, the guys that are in there, I thought they did a good job. I thought it was very competitive in the drills that we tried to create in some of the one-on-one situations as well. But I think Jake's been good. Tonight there was a couple missed opportunities that he had. And he, like I said, he's got to go and respond from that. And he's started really well for us, but tonight, you are where what you see is where you are, and if you have a night that's not up to what you expect out of yourself, well, you go fix it. And he's done that. He's responded, even through spring, and in his last year here, in each of those opportunities, I've seen him rise to the occasion, and so we'll challenge him again this week. And but I've been pleased overall with our specialists, and really excited about the returners and what I've seen from them, just in this first 6 days, as they're continuing to push.
All right, last one will be Ira.
I know you've mentioned that phrase, I guess, like dominant contact or something along those lines, and the coaches have mentioned that as well since the spring. Through the first few days in pads and full pads now, are you sensing that?
Yeah, and I thought it was some physicality that definitely showed up tonight. And it's what I'm looking for. I want the eyes on eyes. When there's nowhere to hide, there's no other option, man. Which way is the person going to be going? If it's a running back with the ball in his hand, I want to see him move forward. If it's a DB, corner, defensive tackle, whoever it is, that, man, you get your opportunity. And when we hit somebody, I want to see him get knocked back. And so it's about playing with with elite level speed. We call it null speed, and we want to go and when we get a chance to put our pads on somebody, we want to be the enforcer in that. And there's still a lot of areas to grow where we can. Where we continue to improve with our tracking, with our pad level. All those things are still a work in progress, but I do believe I'm seeing some positive steps in that, and some guys that you are taking a lot of ownership in how they're training that skill. And whether it's no matter what position you play, you're a corner, receiver, specialist. I mean, you get a chance to hit somebody, we want you to feel Florida State football, and that's got to be trained. And I think our guys are doing a great job in trying to make that the consistent element of this program and what we're all about.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.